Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be able to speak with you again. Welcome to another installment of our Sunday Tao study group. And today, the presentation that I have today is day 42 of the Tao of Joy Every Day, which is entitled Beauty Everywhere. And the subtitle I've chosen is Within and Without. And that's just sort of another way of saying that beauty really is everywhere, that it starts within in a spiritual sense, but then radiates out. And it's always within us, and it's always all around us. And that's simply because it's just the way the Tao works. The Tao encompasses everything. It is everything. It's us. It's everything, material, immaterial, living, and things that are non-organic as well. And yet, it's all part of this fabric of that we call Tao. But before we get into that specifically, I was just going to do a quick review of last week, which was alignment, day 40, and that was day 41 of the Tao of Joy Every Day. And Mark pointed out an interesting thing to me that I was not aware of until I got his message, which was that last Sunday, February 10th, was actually the 41st day of the year. Interesting that it just lined up that way, that the day on alignment ended up being aligning with the day of the year. And of course, the book is, sequenced by days, one day for each day of the year. So an interesting little synchronicity we had. So I thought I'd just briefly bring that up before I go into the review. The alignment and unity that naturally arises from a team that is practiced together in harmony makes difficult tasks seem effortless. And this, of course, is not only true for a team, but when you connect and unite with everyone and everything, because the Tao makes up everything, you can move through life in a seemingly effortless way. When you connect with the Tao, when you cultivate it at a high level, there's a synchronization that's formed between you and the Tao that's already there. And it does make life more effortless in every aspect. So just as the example we gave is when a team rows a boat in perfect synchronicity, we can also practice alignment and unity in our lives as we journey down our various paths leading to our various destinies. So being a part of a team like that brings us into a state of peace and serenity. And despite the fact that actual physical exertion may be occurring, the oneness of working in perfect harmony with others creates a positive energy. And it's that positive energy that we experience and feel, and that just makes us want to focus on it even more. And so each team member feels that. And for being in that state of peace and serenity, it's something you can actually feel. And in a sense, every living thing is part of the team. We're all connected. I often speak of the unseen connection. Sometimes it's easy as we're moving through life to forget that connection, but it's always there. It's always available. It's just a question of focusing on noticing it. And so, as we said, when we accept and practice the Tao teachings consistently, without expectations, the Tao will align with us, just as the teammates in the boat work together to propel the boat forward. The Tao will work with us to propel us forward as well through our lives as we achieve our various destinies. So when we unify with the Tao in that perfect alignment, we move towards our limitless potential. And, we basically can do this because the Tao is limitless. And because it's a part of us, and we're a part of it, that allows us to achieve that same limitless state. But of course, it does take time and practice and dedication to making our minds up to follow the teachings, not just once in a while, not just on Sundays or days where it's easier to be happy because, life is a mixed bag sometimes, but to be able to put the teaching into action all the time, even when things are tough, and knowing that we do that together and we make a better world, first for ourselves, and then that expands out to everyone. And that's the great beauty and harmony that can come from alignment. So now, today, of course, we move on to day 42, which is beauty everywhere. And I chose this picture here of a caterpillar on a stem there, and a butterfly and a flower in the background, for a specific reason. And the reason is that, of course, all of those things together there, the flower, the caterpillar, the butterfly, have an aesthetic quality to them. They're all very beautiful to experience. Obviously, butterflies are multicolored and just represent beauty, but also caterpillars do as well. And of course, the caterpillar turns into the butterfly, and each of those is unique as well. The pattern that you see on the caterpillar often, when it becomes the butterfly, you'll see that same pattern in the wings of the butterfly. And I think of that as sort of the connection between everything. And so it's not just beautiful on that surface level of looking at it to see how beautiful it is, but there's a deepness to it. And that's really what I want to try to bring out in this presentation is the deep beauty that exists in the world. And of course, that whole idea of the caterpillar and the butterfly, the idea of transformation, obviously that's a big aspect of the Tao, because we choose basically to align ourselves with this, to put the teachings into action. And when we do that, we begin to play a part in transforming ourselves. And the Tao sort of plays the other part in transforming us into that limitless potential. But forgive me if I sniffle a little. My allergies have been acting up a little bit as they do from time to time. So my apologies for that. But getting into the presentation, day 42, beauty everywhere. A powerful effect of Tao cultivation is that as we practice it, often we begin to look at things in a different way. And we naturally start to become aware of the beauty that is all around us. And it's not that the beauty was not there before, but rather that we begin to notice it more and more. And not only do we notice it more and more, but we experience it on a deeper level. When you look at a beautiful scene, obviously your eyes are involved, and there's this sort of a surface beauty to what you're seeing that's wonderful to experience, and it can be very pleasant and very relaxing sometimes. And I think almost everyone can appreciate that when they take the time to stop and notice something beautiful in nature or just out in the world. And no one would disagree. I don't think that you'd be hard pressed to find someone to disagree that looking at something beautiful, like a sunrise, for example, uh, most people wouldn't argue. They wouldn't say, "No, that's not beautiful at all." And you wouldn't easily find someone who would say that. Everyone agrees that that's beautiful. But of course, this presentation is entitled "Beauty Everywhere," and certainly there are negative aspects to the world that we can think of. There are places in the world where people live in what might be described as horrible situations. And yet, the title "Beauty Everywhere," it's still there, because despite the circumstances that a being may find himself or herself in, each of us has a sacred beauty within us that we've always had from the moment we entered this existence. And it's always there, and it's always available. There's always that hope and potential that it will be revealed to us, regardless of the situation we may find ourselves in. And more as we cultivate the Tao teachings, we start to realize that there is plenty of beauty and goodness in life that's there, that's available to us. And when you choose to focus on that, your focus naturally becomes your reality. And negative emotions and negative feelings tend to recede. And that can color the way reality will unfold in a positive way. So the beauty we begin to recognize goes beyond just the natural beauty that we see in the world that everyone would agree is wonderful. Things like a snow-covered mountain in the distance or a brilliant sunset are beautiful to anyone that's ever stopped and noticed them and experienced them. But what Tao cultivation does is it allows us to begin to realize that the processes of life itself contain their own aesthetic quality. And as I said toward the top with the picture of the butterfly and the caterpillar, there's an external beauty there, of course. But there's also a beauty in that process of transformation, from a caterpillar into a butterfly. And that sort of has its own deep beauty as well. And with that kind of beauty too, that deep beauty, once again, that beauty is always available to see, to hear, to smell, to taste, to feel. It's always there. But focusing on the spiritual aspects of life, taking time to focus on the spiritual dimension as you move through life and all the things that we do in life, it allows us to notice what's always been there, what's always been within us, what's always been within others. And as I said, from the moment that we enter existence, it was there. It's there now. And that's really what Tao cultivation is about. It's about bringing out or awakening that best part of ourselves with the limitless potential. And so a question that we might ponder as we become more and more aware of the fact that beauty exists everywhere, and not just on the surface, but at a deep level, a question to ponder is, how does the Tao bring these this change in our lives? How do we start to notice this beauty? How does it do it? And really, the answer is actually quite simple. Because Tao cultivation starts from within. That's the very beginning. It's a process within each of us that we've undertaken. That journey that we take started with something sacred within us that we chose to recognize and make a part of our focus. And that inward process then just naturally works its way out to every aspect of our lives. Obviously, there's what we do in the world for a living. That's one aspect of our lives. Our family situation, our personal home life and so forth, that's another aspect. How we relate to strangers as we go out and do the mundane things that we all do in order to live on the planet, whether it's shopping or going out on an outing or taking a walk, or all the things that we do in life. There's a beauty to the processes. And it's a process that works from the inside out. And as it works its way through its natural process, we notice it more and more. We experience it on a deeper level. And it truly does make life beautiful. And of course, as I said, we all have this beauty within us. We've always had it. And because we all have it, it connects us to each other. And of course, it encompasses everything. And because of these things, it allows us to reach our limitless potentials. And so I'm going to start to sum it up now. So because our focus often will determine our reality, it is quite natural to begin to notice the beauty of life that is all around us in a way that we did not observe when we were not practicing Tao cultivation in every aspect of our lives. And, I think of, as I look back on the arc of my life, in a way, the Tao has always been a part of it. I may not have known what to call it. And in some ways, what you call it doesn't matter. It's the experience of it. And, before I found Derek's website, Taoism.net, and made my way to the temple, I had been aware of the Tao. I had been introduced to it in a superficial way when I was young. But it wasn't really until I made a conscious decision to really put the teachings into action in my life that it began to work its way into the fabric of my life and making it better and better. Because a large portion of my life was focused on negativity. I tended to focus on the things that weren't so beautiful. And of course, all of that is often colored by our mind. And when I started to realize that, it changed me. Okay. So it's when we actually take the Tao teachings to heart and put them into action that it changes every aspect of our life. So the beauty that we begin to notice through our senses goes beyond the scenic beauty of the world. The result of Tao cultivation is that we notice that beauty extends and expands out to the processes that are associated with living itself. And that's just a natural thing that happens when we start to make the teachings part of our lives. So the reason we notice the beauty that is everywhere and in every being is because as we cultivate our inner spiritual life, it naturally begins to reflect out into the world. We start to become aware that this beauty is not just a reflection from us, but a reflection from every living being we encounter as well. And that awareness of that makes us more and more connected to the oneness that exists, because the Tao ultimately connects everything and everyone. And of course, there's a powerful force in the world that composes everything and everyone. When children laugh as they play, we can hear it. When we take the time to experience something as simple as a flower, we can smell and see it. All of our senses have the ability to take it in. And it's just a matter of choosing to notice it. So, one example that I want to talk about briefly is the idea of the flower. And it has to do with something that Richard Feynman once said that was very interesting to me, and it's always stuck with me. Richard Feynman, of course, was a famous physicist who worked on the Manhattan Project, among just one of the many things that he did in physics. But he was an interesting fellow. He was quite a character, so to speak, as well. Some people think of scientists as these dull people who take everything apart and take all the beauty out of everything. And with him, it was, he could never be labeled that way, nor should any scientist be labeled that way. But often that does happen. Scientists get labeled that way. And what Feynman pointed out is he had a friend who was an artist. And he said, as an artist, I looked at a flower and I appreciate its beauty and its simplicity. And as a scientist, you take that flower and you break it down into how it works and you make it dull and uninteresting. And Feynman pointed out that, well, of course, there's the aesthetic beauty of the flower that everyone can appreciate. Maybe artists can appreciate it on a higher level. But what he pointed out is, well, there's also a deeper beauty in the processes that make a flower live. It's made up of cells that work in a very interesting way. It has a fragrance to it. It has color. The fact that color and that fragrance can attract insects, that they can see it, that's interesting. And of course, the role it plays in the natural processes as things like flowers evolved on the earth, there's a beauty in that as well. And no matter how deep you go, I mean, even as we start to begin to peel back things, even at like the subatomic level, there's a beauty there too, as well, in the way things work, even things that we haven't completely figured out yet. And that always stuck with me, what Feynman said as he made that comparison as his different point of view from the artist about looking at things on a deeper level and seeing that there's beauty and wonder there as well. And to me, it makes perfect sense with the idea of today's talk of beauty being everywhere. Because it is everywhere, no matter how small you take it or how large you take it. There is beauty all around us. And as I said, it's always available to us. But often what's required is to sort of quiet ourselves down and to stop and take notice. And when we choose to do that, when we stop to take notice, we start to feel this force that encompasses everything. And of course, as I said, it doesn't really matter what we call it, but we call it, in this meeting here, the people in this meeting, we call it Tao. And of course, it comprises everyone and everything. It bonds us, it connects us, which in itself, just that process of oneness is beautiful as well. And so the wonderful thing about making the choice to follow the Tao teachings is that it allows the beauty that's already there to be revealed to us more and more each day. And we see that the things that we chose to focus on, the negative things like anger and jealousy and for some people who experience deep hatred, those things tend to recede as we open ourselves up to what's really there. Often feelings of hatred are a result of a story we tell ourselves. But if we choose to focus and be aware of what's really there, we start to see the connection of everything. And even the most simple things start to become beautiful. And so the title today, Beauty Everywhere, within and without, it really is true. We start within, and then we'll notice it without as well. So I want to start to wrap things up here, first with an invitation. If you've learned from the Tao teachings, perhaps you will be open to sharing what you have learned with others by presenting on a topic from the Tao perspective. Sharing the Tao insights you have learned with our Tao community has the potential to deepen your understanding and the understanding of others. And it's wonderful that Derek and Mark have provided a channel to do that. And I'm thankful that they've given me the opportunity to take part in it. And I'm sure all of us who belong to the Facebook group feel the same way, or just belong to this group. And so, as always, I'll end with a book recommendation, The Tao of Joy Every Day, a great book to use daily to help one study and learn the Tao teachings and put them into action. So there it was, Beauty Everywhere, Day 42, Within and Without. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. I hope I said something that was helpful, and I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you, Alex. I especially like the summary that you put together for a summary on beauty. It was your bullet points are definitely beautifully expressed. So, my suggestion for everyone is to use the external world as a gauge for your internal mental and spiritual landscape. So specifically what I mean by that is look around, use the beauty that you see around you as a gauge for the beauty within. So if you don't see a whole lot, if you see things that make you angry, annoyed, then that just means that there's additional work for you to do, because the external reality cannot help but reflect your internal reality. And when I say the beauty around you, I certainly don't mean to look around to see if you spot supermodels, people who possess physical beauty. I'm talking about something a little deeper than that. In fact, I would challenge everyone to practice looking deeply into someone else's eyes. In fact, I would even recommend doing it whenever you interact or speak with anybody. to me, it is so fascinating, so interesting that when you establish that direct connection to the soul, as it were, looking deeply into someone's eyes as you speak with them, in those moments, it's so difficult for there to be any falsehoods, lies, deception. That direct connection seems to rule all that out. At least that's my experience. I would love to hear from you about your own experience when you practice this particular art of direct connection when you communicate with someone. To me, when I look into someone's eyes as I communicate with them, and I find that open connection, that communication, I really feel that that sense of openness, that honesty is just so beautiful. Now, a caveat for everyone when you decide to practice this, practice looking into someone's eyes when you speak with them. When you do that, remember to blink so you don't end up looking like a psychopath.